Okay, hello and welcome. This is DVDs I like, number 10. It's been about 2 months since I did the last one, and so I apologize for it being kind of a big gap in between these, but as John Lennon said, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. So I had graduation and lots of other things going on here in Japan. But I want to get back to the binder. Thanks to everyone that's been watching these, the previous 9 anyway. And we left off at the end of the, at the end of the letter R in my binder. So we're about to head into the S's. And yeah, I think another 3 of these. I've been kind of doing them in 3s. And I'll be at the end of the alphabet. Then I'll get into some box sets and possibly other sets I have that are not in the binder, if there's continued interest. Okay, so I teased you last time that I would talk about one of my all-time favorite films, and that is this movie, Say Anything. So Say Anything is the story of 2 high school students, one played by John Cusack, as you can tell from these vlogs, one of my all-time favorite actors, and the other played by Ione Skye, who hasn't really gone on to do much of anything else. And the main important thing about Say Anything, it was written and directed by Crowe. And I think I talked a little bit about Cameron when I talked about Jerry Maguire in another one of these. But Crowe, as many of you know, was a young writer who wrote for a magazine in America called Rolling Stone, a music magazine. And he went undercover actually, and wrote the screenplay for a movie called Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is still an excellent teenage comedy. And that kind of launched his career. He didn't direct that film though, and he would go on to write some other things, and he is one of my favorite writer-directors. As I mentioned, Jerry Maguire, Vanilla Sky, Almost Famous, and Say Anything. Now, Say Anything came out in, I believe, 1989. So I was out of high school at the time, but not by long. I think I was probably in my second year of college, and it just struck all the right chords with me. The main character's name is Lloyd Dobler, played by John Cusack, and he's kind of a loner. He lives with his older sister, not with his parents, and he's kind of an outsider at school. He's not particularly bright, he's not like an A+ student or anything, but he, he's not dim, and he's into kickboxing, which if any of you have seen the movie, you'll laugh, because there's a famous scene where he talks about trying to chat up the girl's father. He talks about kickboxing. I'm into kickboxing. You heard of kickboxing? Sport of the future, kickboxing. So he basically, he feels like, why shouldn't I take the chance to ask out this girl, this beautiful girl, Diane, even, because I'm just me, I'm just me, but why shouldn't I give it a shot? And so he does, and she says yes, and they start to have a relationship. But she is very much an above average student. She's going to be valedictorian of her class, like top of her class, and go to a very prestigious university, which happens to end up being overseas. And Lloyd, falls in love with her. But her father, the girl's father, excellently played by John Mahoney, who would go on to star in Frasier on American TV, feels that Lloyd isn't good enough for her. And so I'm making it sound a lot more, I don't know, dramatic or serious than it is. It's a very funny film. It's got a lot of quotable lines. As in all Crowe movies, it's got an excellent soundtrack, including the famous scene here where, trying to woo Diane, he drives up in front of her house and holds this I used to call it a jam box, over his head, and it plays Peter Gabriel's In Your Eyes, which is one of my all-time favorite songs. And I think Entertainment Weekly and American Magazine recently named it the #1 movie of the 80s, and maybe the #1 romantic comedy of all time. And I would agree with both of those statements. It's definitely one of my all-time favorite movies. The great thing about this particular DVD is there's a commentary track by the director and John Cusack and a few other people, and the commentary track actually starts. It was so long, and they wanted to talk about so much, that it starts 20 minutes before the movie. So if you select that option on the DVD, you start to listen to them chat, and there's like still pictures and things for like the first 20 minutes until the movie actually starts. It's very interesting. Okay, moving through the S's. Every now and then I'll buy something for fun. This was a movie I picked up at a comic book convention, Shaolin Soccer. I didn't really know much about it, but had, seen some scenes from it, and it turned out to be a really delightful, goofy little movie, which ended up becoming very famous. So I've liked Asian cinema, especially like John Woo, like Hong Kong cinema, for a long time, and that was a good pick, Shaolin Soccer. The next one, I've got these weird 2 spaces in this binder page, which you can't see right now, and I'm like, what is missing? Like, did I lend somebody some movies? I don't know what's missing in my S's, but anyway. The Sixth Sense is next, and I'm sure, raise your hand. Have you not seen this movie? I'm sure all of you watching these vlogs have seen this movie. If you haven't, leave me a comment. I'd be curious to know. It became such a phenomenon when it came out. The famous twist ending, and the disc is interesting because if you do go back and watch it, even though you know what's coming, it's interesting when you have a movie like that that has a big twist that affects everything you've watched up to that point. It's interesting to go back and rewatch it, knowing what you know now about the ending and seeing, all the clues that might have been dropped, etc. And if you watch the special features on the special edition disc and or listen, I think there's a commentary track as well. They talk about, does he never opens his own door, or the color red and the significance of the color red, and all these kinds of things that were very much planned out when M. Night Shyamalan made the film. And nobody, that's another movie that nobody saw coming, because M. Night Shyamalan had made one other movie about a nun played by Rosie O'Donnell, like a kind of a sweet, charming children's movie up to that point, and he hadn't really written anything else, and he wrote and directed The Sixth Sense, and it's just so good. Not only is, the plot and the idea, etc., interesting and grabbing, but he just got very lucky in that the young actor who plays the boy in it, Haley Joel Osment, is just a fantastic actor, and he needed somebody really good to pull it off, and to make us really empathize with the character. And Bruce Willis does a great job in his part in the film. So it's a shame. I guess I should talk for a moment here about The Happening, which I rented on DVD, and I had been warned not to see it. Not directly, like people coming up to me, but by enough critics and things that I read, and I listened to this podcast about movies, and the people on that podcast from Cinema Blend just dogged on The Happening. And I'm just a fan of M. Night Shyamalan, and so I was like, alright, well, I gotta see it. I won't pay the big money here in Japan to go see it on the movies, but I'll rent it on DVD. And so I paid about $3 to rent it on DVD after it had been out a while. And my God, is it awful. It's just so bad. Not only is the idea ludicrous in the film about the trees and the plants attacking humans, which, if I'm spoiling it for you, good, because I don't want you to see it. But it's so poorly acted and so poorly written. You're listening to the dialogue and you're just like, oh my God, why? Why are people saying these things? And there's no pace to it, and the ending is just incredibly silly. It's really, really, really bad. And I just hope to goodness that he bounces back and his next movie is okay, because The Happening is really unwatchable. So, okay, I think actually that's about my time, and I only got through, what, 3 movies, so I'm trying, I can't go back to these bad ways. Alright, but I'm going to film 2 more of these tonight, so look for part 11 and part 12 soon, and as always, guys, thanks for watching. Okay, bye!